this is Mr. Coates, and this is Indoor Air Pollution APES lecture. As we mentioned earlier, a lot of people think outdoor air pollution is more severe than indoor air pollution. However, this is not the case. In different places, you don't have enough airflow in buildings, you don't have enough air circulation, and you don't have enough air filtration, so you can have things build up like dust mite fecal matter, you can have pollen, molds build up, pet dander, VOCs from different things. All these things contribute to your indoor air pollution, and especially in those developing countries where people still cook inside with wood, this is also a huge problem for them. So we're going to look at indoor air pollution, where it comes from, and how to avoid it. Most of the common pollutants are found much higher indoors, and sometimes 100 times in most cases. This includes like ozone, formaldehyde, particulates, sometimes carbon monoxide. Cars can also keep levels of pollution inside, and that's because they're enclosed and they don't get a whole lot of air circulation with the outside. Because of this, there's a lot of human health damage because of that. One of those things that always intrigues me is that when you get into that brand new car and everybody breathes in that new car smell, well, what is that stuff that you're actually smelling? Well, it's the degassing of all the chemicals from all the fabrics and upholsteries and the plastics from the manufacturing process. And all those things actually are pretty bad chemicals that are not good for you. Even though it smells really good and everybody loves that new car smell, it's just not healthy for you. So the best thing to do when you get a new car is open those windows up and let it air out. So what are some other places that we can get different types of pollutants? Bacteria spores, mold spores that float around the atmosphere can cause lung and bronchitis problems. Pollen is a huge one, asthma. The biggest one here, though, however, is tobacco. Indoor smoking is one of the worst things you can do as far as indoor air pollution. The particulates and all the different chemicals that come off tobacco are terrible, and so we'll look at that. Look at all kinds of chemicals that we use in our households, sprays, disinfectants, food particles, food odors, grease, and we mentioned pets before. We all love our pets, but they do put out dander and odors and things like that that could be hazardous to our health. This just gets us into a phenomenon known as sick building syndrome, and we started seeing this crop up in the late 80s, early 90s, and you started getting buildings that were built, and as soon as people started working or living in them, they started getting sick for some reason, and so this became known as sick building syndrome, and it was all linked basically to the indoor air quality of these buildings. And as soon as they improved the indoor air quality of these buildings, the sicknesses kind of went away. So some of the symptoms included dizziness, headaches, coughing, chronic fatigue, flu-like symptoms, things like that. And a lot of people just couldn't work in the buildings and had to either quit or find other areas to do their work. And once again, it happened in these areas where, in new buildings, where they're trying to conserve energy by not circulating the air as much. And it's, like I said, as soon as they increase their air circulation and their exchange of air with the outside, then this sick building syndrome kind of went away. This also brings us to something that happened here in Florida, and it was called the Chinese drywall issue. And a few years back, drywall was kind of in short supply in the United States, and so we imported quite a lot of drywall from China. And they started putting this drywall in homes in this area, and the drywall had a lot of sulfur dioxide degassing out of it into these people's homes. And you had this rotten egg smell, and also it created sulfuric acid inside the walls and started deteriorating copper pipes and copper wiring. And this was a huge issue here in Florida, and there's still a lot of lawsuits going on, but basically people would have to rip out all of the drywall in their homes, and if their plumbing and electricity wasn't too badly damaged, they could probably leave it, but they might have had to replace their plumbing and their electrical, and this was almost like rebuilding the whole house over again. And this was basically linked to the pollution from that drywall, and this was a type of sick building syndrome. So some common indoor air pollutants that we see. Cigarette smoke, I mentioned, is the biggest one. Look at all these things over here. This is all stuff found in cigarette smoke. DDT, arsenic, acetone, nicotine, tar, hydrogen cyanide, formaldehyde, methane, toluene, polonium, which is radioactive. Same thing with radon is radioactive. So all these things are found in cigarettes. So cigarettes are a huge indoor air pollutant. Formaldehyde, Radon, radioactive gas seeping up into your house from the ground, and then fine particulates again. We've talked about these before, but particulates in the home are always a problem. So let's look at formaldehyde. Formaldehyde is widely used in the production of things in your house like particle board, drapes, upholstery, in your furniture. It's also going to be found in fingernail hardener, and it's used quite a lot in chemical processes. But this stuff, once you buy one of these things that has formaldehyde in it, it degasses off into your house for quite a long time. It's like when you buy a rug and you bring that rug in and the house kind of smells like that rug for a while. That rug is degassing off all of those things, and it might be formaldehyde from the manufacturing process. And this can also create dizziness, headaches, irritation to the eyes, and also formaldehyde has been shown to be a carcinogen. Radon is another one of those gases that we don't think about a whole lot. However, it can cause a huge problem with lung cancer. Radon-222 is a radioactive isotope, and it seeps into the house due to the degradation of uranium within the Earth's lithosphere. And this can cause lung cancer. You breathe in these particles of radon-22 gas, and it can actually mutate your DNA. So here we have radon decay products that get in there and they start mutating your DNA in your lungs, and you can get lung cancer if you have a lot of this radon in your house. And it tends to escape from areas with high amounts of granite. Fortunately, here in Florida, we don't have a whole lot of granite in our bedrock, and so we don't have too much of a problem. But if you have an area that has lots of granite, it usually seeps into those areas. And radon happens to seep into basements the easiest and stays in basements in highest quantity. And next to smoking, it's the second leading cause of lung cancer is radon. But a lot of people don't even test for radon. You can actually go to the store and you can buy very cheap radon testing kits, and you can test the amount of radon in your house. Like I said, here in Florida we don't have too much of a problem, but if you live in the Appalachian areas, throughout some of the Smoky Mountain areas where there's lots of granite in the bedrock, then you definitely need to check your radon. The radon comes from that rock as uranium decays, and it comes into your buildings through cracks in the footings or cracks in the walls. It can come into your water wells and basically gets trapped in the building at the bottom here. Typically is where radon gets trapped, and if you spend a lot of time in your basement, you can get a large exposure to radon. Radon also naturally degasses into the atmosphere. You don't have to worry about this radon too much. It's the stuff when it gets concentrated inside your house. Once again, one of the easiest ways to avoid this is to have a good liner when you build your house. If you don't know what your house is built with, but if you're actually building your house, you can have a good liner put in that will block any kind of radon getting into your house. The other way to do it is to have good indoor air circulation with the outside, so a lot of this doesn't get trapped and you can move it out and get it out of that concentration area. Well, I hope that gave you some information on indoor air pollution and the severity of the problem. If you have any questions, please bring it in